Hey folks, Chris Simmons here with CreateInsights.com. In this insight I want to talk about how to avoid making knee-jerk decisions in your video business. Running a video business is a huge challenge. The amount of frustration and exhaustion that comes from trying to be successful as a videographer can often lead us to make knee-jerk decisions in hopes that things will change. Instead of changing things up every time you hit what you think is a crossroads in your business, take a deep breath and relax. Sometimes the best decision you can make as a video business owner is to not make a decision at all. I'll level with you. Even though I've been fortunate enough to build a pretty successful video production business, I'm still not satisfied with where I'm at financially. It's not about material things. It's about being able to relax when I want to, travel when and where I want to, and to build a sustainable business that continues to make a lot of money even when I'm not there. It's about being able to write a single check to pay off college tuition for all 4 of my children when the time comes. Being able to tell the bank to take a hike as it relates to paying off my house mortgage. And being able to buy a nice condo on the beach so my beautiful wife, who happens to be allergic to cold weather, and I can fly down there whenever we want to enjoy a little fun in the sun. Ultimately, what I'm after is financial freedom. The freedom to do as I please without having to worry about money. The problem is that even though I'm well on my way to achieving this, I often get impatient because I want to already be there. Instead of working my plan day in and day out, I often want to take shortcuts to get there, which leads to bad decisions. Decisions that cost me a lot of money and even more frustration. See if this sounds familiar to you. Sales are down, so you think the best solution is to completely change the way you market your video production business. Instead of doing more of what you know works, you try to revamp your entire effort. A month or so later, you launch a new website, print new business cards, change your logo, etc. However, once you make all these changes, you realize that even though you are impressed with your new look and feel, it didn't make any difference related to your sales. All you really did was waste a month worrying about things that weren't significant to the success of your business. You spent thousands of dollars in time and money making changes that probably didn't need to be made, and now the money you should have had in your reserves to help you get by until sales picked up again is gone. Your effort to improve your marketing resulted in your business being worse off than it was before you started. Here's another thing. You're in the middle of several projects with short deadlines, so you've been working around the clock for weeks. You're exhausted, cranky, and fed up with being the only one in your company who can do the work. In this time of stress, the only logical answer that comes to mind is that you need an employee who can help you edit these projects or handle shoots while you stay back in the suite knocking them out day after day. On the surface, this sounds like a great plan. If you have more help, you can produce more videos, which should result in more money. Not so fast. Sure, more help now might enable you to finish the videos faster or might give you more rest in the long run, but how sustainable is your workload? Is this something that will continue on for months and months, or are you just in a 4-week period where you've been completely slammed, but at the end of this string of projects, you won't have anything else major to work on for 6 more weeks? I've made this mistake on several occasions. I choose to grow the company when business is at its peak instead of waiting to see what happens when business dies back down again. If you find that in your slow periods you still need help to get all the work done, then by all means hire. I think you'll find though that in most cases all you really need to do is figure out how to get temporary help from freelancers when you hit your peaks instead of committing to a full-time employee. The work will be better and it won't cost you near as much in the long run. In times of economic uncertainty, it's much better to get into short-term contracts with freelancers than to make long-term commitments to employees. Sure, you can hire people and just let them go if your business slows down in a month, but if you do that too many times, you'll develop a reputation as a bad employer. And if your customers see significant turnover, they might question your ethics. Here's another thought. See if this also sounds familiar. One prospective client makes a comment about how they wish you had a particular kind of camera, so you run out and arrange financing or drain your cash reserves to get one. I know a lot of videographers who jumped on the HD bandwagon way too early. Out of 20 potential projects, maybe one prospect would indicate they were interested in producing their video in HD. So they ran out and invested tens of thousands of dollars, usually in the form of debt, mind you, to make the transformation from standard def to high def. Then, after they were ready to go, they quickly found out that hardly anyone even knew the difference between HD and SD. Or when the client was presented with the costs associated with HD production, they more often than not chose to go with SD. Of course, it makes sense on a lot of levels today to go ahead and start migrating your video business to HD production, if you haven't already. But you certainly don't have to do it in one fell swoop. Take time to plan it correctly so it doesn't hurt your cash reserves, or so you don't bind yourself with yet another long-term loan that you'll have to pay back each month for years, regardless of whether you have the cash flow to support it or not. An example of this in my video business is that I've never had a legitimate production studio, because I can count on one hand the number of my productions that actually require one. It has never made financial sense for me to pay for square footage that I don't use. Now, I do have a little 10 by 16 space where I put a couple editors in there, we store our equipment, and I do have a green screen wall up there for very small productions, but for the most part, we don't have a studio. My clients rarely ever have the need for one, so I choose to rent studio space as needed, instead of paying to have one at my disposal at all times. On occasion, a prospect will indicate that the reason they chose another videographer was because they had their own studio, whereas I would have had to set up a temporary studio in their conference room. When this happens, I often think, maybe I need to take the plunge. But then I also think, yeah, but the 99 other prospects who've hired me this year obviously didn't care if I had a studio, so why should I weaken my financial position for the one person who had a problem with it? I know that having a studio makes sense for a lot of you, but it's never made sense for me, at least not yet. I'm in the process of pitching several ongoing projects to clients, and if I get them, it probably will make sense to invest in a studio, but only because the cost will be built into the contract. So here's a final thought. Before you make a decision that will cost money and send you off in another direction, take a step back and think about whether what you want to do will actually make a difference to your bottom line. More often than not, if you just continue to work your plan, assuming you have one, and take some time off when you feel like you're burning out, things will improve and you will steadily move towards your goal of success as a video business owner.